Hello again. I'm CrimsenOverlord, and I finally made it to Disc 3 of Final Fantasy XIII.
Thanks.
So, how does it hold up? Pretty well, actually. Let's get right down to business. The story gets much better. I feel like I have a goal and a villain to fight. Before, I was kind of on a mission of like self-discovery, so to speak. But now I'm on a semi-clear path, so I kind of know what's going on. The combat has become good most of the time. It still drags on too long for my taste, but once you obtain magic, which I did almost immediately after my first impressions did, the combat really picks up. Switching paradigms, as they're called, mid-battle is generally well done. You not only can switch up your party formation to make the fight easier or more interesting mid-battle, but it is encouraged and necessary in some fights. I wish the game gave you a little more instruction in how to set up paradigms effectively, but you figure it out eventually. And the game kind of forces certain characters together in order to help you learn what works, give you practice, if you will. As far as combat goes, I feel I need to mention the summons, or Eidolons as the game calls them. I'm not all that impressed with them. So far, I only have 3 available, and I think each character gets one, but they aren't very useful. I mainly use them as a cheap way to get my health back, as summoning one gives you full health and makes you almost invincible while they're around. Unfortunately, they don't do much more damage than your party, and they don't build combo chains as fast. In the fight I used for this video showing Odin, I completed that same fight with just the party in half the time due to combo chains staggering the opponent. Don't get me wrong, Odin looks cool and all, but that isn't enough to warrant wasting time using him. Another reason to not use summons during combat is the commando launch ability. Basically, the physical attacker role gets the ability to hurl a staggered foe into the air, which you can then juggle indefinitely if you time your blows carefully. Like some Master Soul Calibur player, this makes the enemy unable to perform any actions. Now, in a fight against several small enemies, this isn't a big deal, but in a one-on-one fight against a boss or a mini-boss, you basically win the fight as soon as he becomes staggered. I call it the easy mode switch, which you can see here is very effective and continues until I win. But let's get away from the bad parts about combat. The Crystarium is how you level up and obtain new spells and abilities. If you've ever played Final Fantasy X, you'll feel right at home here. It is a similar layout and look as the level up process from Final Fantasy X. Up until this 3, each character gets 3 roles to advance in: the Commando, Ravager, Sentinel, Saboteur, Medic, and Synergist. Commando is your physical attacker. You hit things. Ravager is your black mage. You set stuff on fire and sometimes hit things with magical weapons. Sentinel is your meat shield. You stand around and taunt enemies while guarding to minimize damage. Saboteur is your stat debuffer. Poison, dispel, anything to make the enemies weaker. Medic is self-explanatory, you heal people. And Synergist is your stat buffer. Haste, protects, things that make you overpowered. Generally, you end up with a paradigm consisting of 1 Commando and 2 Ravagers in most fights, as that is the easiest way to build combo chains and stagger your enemies. Sometimes I like to switch it up and have 3 Ravagers for quicker chain building, but you have to get at least 1 hit with the Commando first or the chains don't stick. An odd way of doing it, but it makes sense the way they explain it. Another good paradigm is the Commando Synergist Sentinel group. It's a good way to start boss fights, as the Sentinel takes all the hits while the Synergist sets up buffs. Then switch to a healer paradigm and you're good to go. At Disc 3 you're given access to other roles for each character, but it costs so much experience that it isn't worth it for every character. Mostly it's so you can make your favorite 3 even more powerful. The spells and abilities you learn differ with each character, so even if you have 2 with the same role, they don't become redundant. I found that the certain roles are extremely useful, such as the Synergist, the characters of Hope and Saz both have Synergist, but only Saz gets Haste. As you go throughout, both can gain the abilities of the other, but Hope never gains haste, which I originally thought was detracted, was a little, made him less useful, but Hope is still a great character to have, and Saz has his moments. Plus, one of the other characters gets haste if you take the time to give them that role. So there's a lot of variety, a lot of cool stuff that way. And how about Vanille? She does indeed become less retarded as the game progresses. It turns out she was pretending to be full of childlike ignorance so people wouldn't ask her questions. A simple, I don't want to talk about it would have sufficed, but to each her own, I guess. To wrap up, the game gets better, and the parts that don't hold up well enough that you don't mind. I find myself wishing I didn't have to sleep, just so I could play it more. Definitely a good Final Fantasy game, and I'll be buying 13.2 as soon as I buy my new TV. Or it drops in price. Now I'm going to leave you with a complete boss fight in which I utilize paradigm shifts and flip the easy mode switch. Enjoy.
Got your back. No more words. We're not here. I owe ya. We're not here. On your guard.